I'd just like to do a video showing how the wiring works in a fuel gauge. I got this off of eBay. This fuel gauge, it cost about 20 bucks including shipping. Here's what it looks like. And in the back here, I'm not going to talk about the lights, but in the back here on the left side you have a terminal labeled S, which stands for sender. Okay, sender. Bottom here you have a negative, positive here, on the right here you have a positive. Since I'm not going to actually do this in the car, I'm using a 12 volt battery, and as you can probably tell, positive terminal goes to the positive terminal of the battery, negative pin here goes to the negative terminal, and the sender terminal goes to the sending unit. So actually fairly simple. However, there is something that's not mentioned in the instructions that can lead to a bit of confusion. This sending unit here, it has to be grounded itself. So in this case, I actually have to touch it to the negative terminal here. Okay. But before I do so, I'd just like to show you a couple of symptoms of what happens if something is not correct. Right now, see, nothing's happening to the gauge, even if I move the float arm here, nothing's happening, right? Now if I connect this here, you see, as I move it, see that? And it's actually not calibrated to the best. You see that there's actually a little bit of space there where it's actually supposed to be right on top of the fuel, sorry, not the fuel, the full mark, and it's not. Fuck. Let's just see if you can see that. Now if I take the sending unit out of the negative terminal, it just goes back to empty. Okay, let me just check if you guys are able to see what I'm doing here. Yeah, you are. Okay. I'll zoom in a little bit. I'd just like to illustrate some symptoms. I'll remove the positive terminal. Nothing happens. Let's say the sending unit is there, and it says it's full. If I remove the positive terminal, it actually goes all the way down to empty. If I remove the negative terminal, negative wire, once again, while still leaving the ascending unit itself on the negative terminal, which in the car would be attached to somewhere on the frame, on the body of the car. If I remove negative wire, it just shows full, even if it's empty. See there, it's empty. Sorry, move now because I actually am trying to hold the sending unit here. But you see, it shows full while it's actually empty. Now it's empty again because I reconnected the negative wire. So if your fuel gauge is showing empty, full, when it's actually empty, could be, if it's not the gauge itself, it'll be the negative wire. You know, either corroded terminal, broken wire, something like that. Right, see there? It's showing full. If I remove both of them, it'll just show empty, even if it's full. Alright, and then if your tank is full, see my hands here. Actually, you didn't see that, so let me just back out a little. Sorry, guys. Trying to be the camera guy here, for fuck's sakes. There, I think that's better now. Okay, let me just show you that again. So the float arm here is actually on full right now. This would be the bottom, right? So right here would be empty. Here's full. It's full, but if I remove the positive wire, it actually shows empty. So if your fuel tank is actually full, but the gauge is showing empty, the problem is not the gauge itself; it is the positive wire. Okay. Now, what I'd like to stress here is that the sending unit itself also has to be attached to the ground, right? Which is in most 12-volt cars since about 1950s, 50 something. The frame is negative. Before, like in the 40s, 30s, used to be the other way around. The body of the car, pardon me, the bottom of the car would be attached to the positive terminal instead of the negative. And once again, ground just means that in automotive, you know, electrics, the ground terminal just refers to the body of the car. The entire car is it has voltage going through it. Okay, so you know, a lot of people get scared. Oh, well, some people that don't know, don't understand some basic principles of electricity. They actually don't realize that the entire body of the car is actually a wire, if you will. Alright, it's not isolated. So when you're touching the door of the car, you're actually touching, you know, 12 volts. Okay. But anyways, so I just like to show that the important thing here that's not mentioned in the instructions is that the sending unit itself has to be connected to the negative terminal. Okay, if it's in the car, the frame, any place, any clean surface on the car, right? I mean, if you're not sure, you have to get a voltmeter or, you know, multimeter and see if there's 12 volts going there. Right, so now that I've shown, you know, the symptoms of what happens if you remove some of the wires, I'd like to go ahead and see what happens with this other fuel gauge. Now the thing is here, the way these things work is that in here there's a resistor. If you look inside here, I'm not going to. If you look inside this where the float arm goes, there's like lots of wires, you know, lots of turns of wires around a usually it's a plastic or, you know, a rubber case. Lots of rounds of wire, and this wire is not copper wire. It's not regular wire. It's a resistive wire. So basically, what this is it's just a simple variable resistor. Okay, so it adjusts the amount of current that's able to go through it. Okay, and so if more current is able to go through it, then it shows on full. Okay, if no current is able to go through it, then it's at empty. Okay, if this was a light bulb, the light bulb would go dim, or it would go very bright. But the important point here is that for different cars, the resistance is different. Okay, these manufacturers, guys, they're like that. They don't follow a standard. Like, I mean, they should. I mean, like 1 plus 2 is 3 in any country in the world. But unfortunately, you know, for cars and electronics and most everything else, there isn't a standardized, you know, form of manufacturing, if you will. So there's actually different resistances. Okay, I mean, you could actually, there's a way you can measure this. I'm not going to do that right now. you get a multimeter and you set the settings to ohms. That's what resistance is measured in. Okay, and resistance is just as the name suggests. It's the force that resists electricity going through. Okay, so if electricity is going through it, there's always a little bit of resistance to electricity going through it, through the wire. Okay, this is just very high resistance, right? And it's variable. Okay, that's the thing. So in this particular model here, this particular I bought this fuel gauge and it comes with the sending unit, right? Whereas this other gauge here came by itself. Now the thing is here, I think the manufacturer says the resistance for this sending unit is 30 to 240 ohms. I think it's that, but best way to know is to test. But the thing is, this gauge here is actually ugly. Okay, I mean it's not too bad, but it's got like plastic in there. It's not too bad. But it's just a little too modern. This one here has this blue protective screen here. I'll just remove it so you can see it. So for a classic car, the one on the left here just looks a lot nicer and more original than the one here on the right. Now the thing is, if this gauge operates on different resistance than this one, I might not be able to use a sending unit on this. So for example, if a car has a sending unit here that has a higher resistance, it's actually going to show, the gauge is actually going to show empty when the tank is actually full, because once again the electricity is not able to flow through this. That's why, and that's a problem. Or on some models, if you have a lower resistance, it'll be the opposite, so it will show full when the tank is actually empty. Of course, there will be some, there will be some variance there. But for example, on the another car I worked, I just used another sending unit, and it would start at empty and it would only go up to half. Okay, so if I lifted the float arm here all the way to the top, the gauge will only move to the top. Alright, so that's a little fucking pain in the ass. One way, if you have a lot of knowledge and resistive wire, there's a way you can calculate, or just try to rewire the resistance to conform to the fuel gauge. Because my problem is I can't find a fuel gauge with the sending unit like this. I mean, this gauge they only sell it by itself without the sending unit. It's stupid. But what I like to do now, I just like to actually show you guys what I'm talking about. Hopefully these two, I mean they're pretty much, I'm almost 100% sure that they're made from the same manufacturer. So I expect that the resistance for both will be the same. On the back here, it's the same setup. Sender at the left, negative at the bottom, and positive at the right. So I'm actually going to try this here. See if I'm able to use this fuel gauge with this sending unit. One thing I do notice, I'll just remove this here. I actually didn't have a wrench for these tiny screws here. Something like there. Fuck's sakes. Be careful, guys. Shouldn't have done that. Shit. It still works. Jesus I just disconnected it from the battery. Let's just give it a little test just to see if it still works. Another thing I'd like to mention is the sending unit. Remember, it's just a series resistor. So if you will, it's just a negative wire with high resistance. You can visualize it that way. It's attached to the body of the car, so it's negative. Right, so if you were to attach it, if you were to attach a light bulb between S and positive here, it would go dimmer or brighter depending on the amount of fuel that's in the tank, which is actually pretty cool. Let's just see if this still works. Jesus, did I fry the damn thing? Shit, I sure hope not. Sorry about that. Should just remove the. Okay, yeah, I should have just removed the positive wire first because the sending unit is also negative, as I just said. So. Damn it. Alright, now it's just a little spark. Still works fine. Great. Let's move the positive wire first. Oh, just remove the negative. It's easier. It's easier. Another thing I don't like about this particular gauge here is that it's too big for my dashboard. That distance there, the other one is much narrower. I'll show you guys in just a sec. These bolts are fucking tiny. I'll just show you in just a sec. The issues. Okay. There's a difference. Point number one. Let's see how much time I have. Okay. Point number one. This gauge here, the one that I said is nicer, is actually made of metal, whereas this one is made from the worst material on the fucking planet. Fucking shit plastic. Plastic is a fucking piece of shit. I fucking hate plastic, guys. God damn, the fucking worst invention on the planet. Point number two. This gauge looks a lot nicer. It's got a nice, stainless steel trim here, whereas this one is black. I mean, maybe you'd prefer the black here, but another thing is this one has a plastic dial, and I fucking hate that. Point number two. As you can see here, the terminals on this gauge are like at least 5 times, no, sorry, I'm just exaggerating, at least 3 times bigger than these ones. These ones, I tried to, this is actually like, I'm gonna say, I know it's smaller than a 1/4 inch. This is like 3/16, so maybe 1/8. I don't know, but they're fucking tiny. Okay, but let's see if this sending unit will work with this gauge here. Attach the negative first. You know what, I'll just disconnect this from the battery here. It's actually quite easy. There. I just want to test it to see if it works. I'm not too concerned about tightening it right now. Positive. Here's the S. This gauge here is brand new, never used. Expensive, like $12. But it was the cheapest one I could find. Bought it on eBay. Alright, there we go. Positive. Fuck guys, we're in luck. They match. They both operate in the same resistance. Alright, we're in luck. Okay, so bye, and thanks for watching.